You know, what's always surprised me? As researchers, we are trained to solve complex problems. We spend months designing experiments, analyzing data, overcoming unexpected challenges, and sometimes spending years trying to answer a single research question. But here is something I see again and again. Some of the most brilliant researchers I know and people with outstanding PhDs and postdocs feel completely lost when it comes to their own careers. Isn't that strange? How can someone who spent years solving difficult research problems still feel overwhelmed by deciding what's next in their own careers? The problem is not that researchers are not capable. It's that nobody ever teaches us how to navigate our careers. Universities prepare us exceptionally well to become good researchers, but the decision to stay in academia or explore other career paths is ultimately ours to make. And I don't think researchers should have to make those decisions alone. That's why I started Researcher Compass. I'm Dr. Sandhya Rani Gaudu. If you are a researcher trying to figure out your next step, whether that's in academia, industry, or somewhere else entirely different, I hope you will subscribe and join me. Together, let's build the career roadmap many of us wish we would had during our PhD so that we can navigate our careers with clarity and confidence. So let's go back to the question where we started with. Why do so many brilliant researchers struggle with their own careers? If you have watched my last two videos, you know I shared my journey from my PhD at Digist in South Korea through Max Planck Institute and Leibniz Institute in Germany and eventually into industry. Through my own journey and through conversations with researchers from different cultural backgrounds, I kept noticing the same patterns again and again. It's rarely about intelligence, it's about three things. The first, what I call, is currency mismatch. Yes, currency mismatch. Let me explain what it means. Every environment has its own way of measuring value. In academia, the value is often measured by how many papers have you published, which journal did you publish in, how many citations does your work have, did you get the funding? That's how the work is valued in academia. That's the currency. Now imagine you walk into an industry environment. Nobody asks about your H index. Nobody asks how many first author publications you have. Instead, they ask things like who benefited from your work? How did your research create measurable value? Can you lead a project with strict deadlines? Can you work with customers or cross functional teams who do not understand a word of your science? Do you see what's happening? The value of your work hasn't changed. The environment has changed. The questions have changed, and the way you need to communicate your work has changed. That's where many researchers struggle because suddenly you need to use academic currency in an industry environment. It's like trying to use the right currency at the wrong place. For example, it's like walking into a German cave with Indian rupees. The money is real, it has value, but you cannot use it there until it's exchanged. Your PhD, your publications, and your research, they absolutely have value, but it's learning how to communicate the value you already have into a different environment. That's exactly where the mismatch happens, not because researchers lack ability, but because nobody ever taught us how to make that conversion. The second pattern, what I see, is what I call the perfection trap. Think about how we are trained as researchers. We question our assumptions. We ask for more evidence. If something doesn't look right, we repeat the experiment. And before reaching a conclusion, we collect more data. And before we publish, we make sure all our conclusions are reliable. And that's exactly what good research demands. In research, waiting is not a weakness. In fact, it's a strength. It's called being thorough and careful. But careers, they work differently. They don't wait until we have complete certainty. I see so many researchers who are unhappy or uncertain, but yet they choose to stay exactly where they are because they are waiting for one more piece of information. Maybe they are waiting for another paper to be accepted before applying for new positions, or maybe they are waiting to see if the next grant gets funded. Or maybe they are waiting until they feel 100% ready. But while we are waiting for the last bit of certainty or information, the world keeps moving. A fellowship deadline passes, a faculty position is filled, a collaboration moves forward, a company hires someone else, or the opportunity available to you is changed. And that's when I realized something very important. I have realized there is a fundamental difference between careers and research. In research, we are trained to ask, do I have enough evidence to support this conclusion? But in career, the question you must ask is, do I have enough information to choose my next step? Those are completely two different questions. The first one is about reaching a conclusion. It needs 100% certainty. And the second one is about taking an action. It asks whether you have enough information to take the next step. It does not require 100% certainty. Having about 70% confidence is enough to take the next step. The perfection trap happens when we expect career decisions to meet the same standard of certainty as scientific conclusions. But a career is not an experiment where every variable can be controlled. It's a series of decisions made without having all the answers, and our goal is not to make the perfect decision, it's to make the best decision with the information we have today and then keep learning as we move forward. The third pattern I see is what I call the specialist trap. From the very beginning of our research, we are encouraged to specialize. We find our niche, we go deeper, and we spend years becoming the expert on one very specific area. But that strength can also become a limitation if you are not careful. The problem is not becoming a specialist, the problem is believing that your expertise is only the thing you can offer. Because over time, it's easy to start thinking, I'm only qualified for this one field. Nobody outside my area will understand what I do, and I cannot explore other opportunities because no one else is doing exactly what I do. That's a specialist trap. When we see ourselves only through the lens of our technical expertise, we stop seeing the skills we have been building all along, because a PhD does not just teach you a research topic, it teaches you how to solve complex problems. It teaches how to learn quickly and how to analyze uncertainty, how to manage long term projects, and how to communicate difficult ideas. And it teaches how to keep going when nothing works. Those are valuable skills in academia, but they are also valuable in industry, government, startups, consulting, science policy, and many other careers. The challenge is learning to connect those skills to the bigger picture. I have noticed so many brilliant researchers stay focused only on becoming specialists, but career growth often comes from becoming a better connector, connecting your expertise to people, connecting your expertise to opportunities, connecting your expertise to strategy, and connecting your expertise to impact. Your deep expertise will always be one of your greatest strengths. The question is whether you can also explain why that expertise matters beyond your own specialization. Because careers, they are not just built only on depth, they are also built on depth and perspective. So, how do we actually avoid these traps? That's exactly why I started Researcher Compass. I spent years learning how to become a researcher, but almost nobody taught me how to navigate my career. And over the years, I have realized that I'm not only the one who felt that way. That's the gap I want Researcher Compass to fill. Through this channel, we will learn how to communicate the value of our research, how to make well-informed decisions without waiting for perfect certainty, and how to connect our specialization to opportunities beyond what we already knew. Brilliant researchers don't struggle with their careers because they lack intelligence or ability. They struggle because nobody teaches how to navigate them. Career navigation is a skill, and every skills begin by asking the right questions. So I'm curious, after everything we have talked about today, what's one professional skill you wish you would have been taught during your PhD or postdoc that could have helped you avoid one of these three struggles? I would love to hear your perspective, and your ideas may even inspire future topics for Researcher Compass. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you can subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, let's navigate the journey together.